think that's the pure. I think it's the pure.
It doesn't look like.
9-5, 9-5. We're gonna play. We're gonna play. We are the freshest play. The freshest play. 9-5, 9-5. We're gonna play. We're gonna play. We are freshest.
Let's sing.
welcome to this graduation ceremony of the University of Edinburgh. I call upon the chaplain to the university.
Let us pray. God, in whose creation is found a marvelous unity and a mysterious complexity, we give thanks for skills learnt and knowledge gained to enable healing in people and animals. We give thanks for the heritage of courageous research undertaken in the past on which we can build. And we give thanks for the unfolding of new riches in the common search for fullness of life. Give to us a proper perspective that admits to human fallibility and recognizes the limits of our power. Enable us to maintain the highest standards of integrity that are uncompromised by prospects of gain or pressures of conformity. Be with us when we struggle to be true to what we know to be right. And so help us to both celebrate this day for ourselves and to honor achievement in others, remembering those who have taught, supported, and encouraged us, and in humility to give glory to you, our God. Amen.
Please be seated. I call upon the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Professor Colin Bird.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, in the name and by the authority of the Senatus Academicus, I have the honour to present for the honorary degree of Doctor of Medicine, Desmond Gareth Julian. Desmond Julian has achieved international recognition for his outstanding work in the field of clinical cardiology and cardiovascular research. Although the research base in cardiology in the United Kingdom may be regarded as modest by comparison with other international centres, its contribution through innovative developments and landmark studies has been disproportionate to its size, and it has profoundly influenced the development of this specialty throughout the world. Professor Desmond Julian has been at the very heart of these influential contributions over many years, and it was in Edinburgh that he carried out some of his most important work. Desmond Julian was born in 1926 and educated at the University of Cambridge and the Middlesex Hospital Medical School. He was first appointed to a position in Edinburgh in 1958 as a senior registrar in cardiology, having previously undertaken training at the National Heart Hospital in London and at the Peter Bent Brigham Hospital in Boston in the United States. Whilst in Edinburgh, he observed the high frequency of sudden death due to presumed irregularities of the heart rhythm following heart attack, and in an emergency situation courageously carried out one of the first successful open-chest heart massage resuscitations on a patient who had collapsed with cardiac arrest. This event took place well before the development of the now widely practiced closed-chest cardiopulmonary resuscitation procedures. After a period of training in Edinburgh, he was appointed as cardiologist to the Sydney Hospital in Australia, but he returned in 1964 to a consultant position at the Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh. Following his return, in collaboration with Professor Michael Oliver, he established the first purpose-built coronary care unit in the United Kingdom, and this unit became the World Health Organization's International Centre for Training in Acute Coronary Care. Later, with other colleagues, he also initiated one of the first epidemiological studies of new-onset angina pain, providing a key reference for future investigations of this subject and an innovative approach to collaboration between hospital care and primary care in such investigations. In 1974, Desmond Julian was appointed as the first British Heart Foundation Professor of Cardiology at the University of Newcastle, and subsequently he became Medical Director of the British Heart Foundation, the President of the British Cardiac Society, and the Vice President of the Royal College of Physicians of London. Between 1980 and 1988, he served as the editor of the European Heart Journal, and he is the author of a large number of books, including several of the key reference texts in cardiology. During his career, Desmond Julian also made a major contribution to the design, conduct, and analysis of clinical trials on heart disease, including the 4 landmark ISIS trials on myocardial infarction, heart failure, and the use of cholesterol-lowering agents. The findings of these trials have had a major impact worldwide and have radically altered the approach to management of patients with cardiac disease. Desmond Julian has also contributed through his involvement with the British Heart Foundation and the Medical Research Council to other key initiatives supporting cardiovascular research in the United Kingdom and in the setting of national standards of clinical practice in the management of patients with heart disease. In recognition of his many contributions to cardiology, to the study of cardiovascular disease, to the clinical care of patients with heart disease, and to the many innovative developments for which he has been responsible both in Edinburgh and elsewhere, we are delighted to have this opportunity to acknowledge his outstanding achievements. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I now invite you to confer on Desmond Gareth Julian the honorary degree of Doctor of Medicine.
By the authority vested in me, I admit you to the degree. I call upon the Dean of Veterinary Science, Professor Morley Sewell, to present a candidate for an honorary degree.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, in the name and by the authority of the Senatus Academicus, I have the honour to present for the honorary degree of Doctor of Veterinary Medicine and Surgery, Jane Goodall. At an early age, Dr. Goodall acquired that most essential attribute of a scientist, curiosity. From the start, that curiosity was directed towards animals, and she acknowledges that it was Tarzan and Dr. Dolittle who planted the seeds of the dream that took her to Africa. Arriving in that continent in 1957, she met Dr. Louis Leakey. With his support, she embarked on the task of studying the social structures of the wild chimpanzees at Gombe in Tanzania. She had been advised that the work might be unrewarding, but it is now of international renown. Her study took years of patient surveillance, in which she had first to become an accepted part of her chimpanzee society without altering its essential nature. Her painstaking observations revolutionized our concepts of that species' ability and community. We did not then appreciate that, at a fundamental molecular level, there is little difference between human beings and chimpanzees. However, Jane demonstrated that the drives and talents of these, our nearest relatives on Earth, are remarkably comparable to our own. Her findings gave us an insight into our own natures, as we see them reflected in our fellow primates. These studies resulted in the award of a PhD from the University of Cambridge, an exceptional distinction for a student without any previous degree. Dr. Goodall is one of those rare individuals whose work marks a turning point in the attitude of the human race to creatures with whom we cohabit this planet. She went on to draw the inference that their needs, and indeed rights, are also similar to ours. Yet we have it within our power to completely destroy their society and have often treated them as though they were inanimate test tubes. Exceptionally skilled at presenting her findings both to scientists and to a wider public, including children, Dr. Goodall has published widely. The definitive scientific description of her observations is given in her book, The Chimpanzees of Gombe, Patterns of Behavior. Her publications have played a major role in establishing the importance of conservation of all endangered species. More recently, she has been concerned with the welfare aspects of the use of primates, especially of chimpanzees, in medical research. Numerous institutions, such as the American Academy for Advancement of Sciences and the New York Zoological Society, have honored Dr. Goodall. She presented the third Edinburgh Medal Lecture in 1991, speaking warmly of her introduction to the then Department of Zoology by Professor Manning, and of how the Jane Goodall Institute had come to be founded in this city. In 1995, she received the prestigious Hubbard Medal of the National Geographical Society for her extraordinary 35-year study of wild chimpanzees and for tirelessly defending the natural world which we share. In that same year, she was made a commander of the British Empire. Veterinary surgeons are firmly committed to the welfare of animals. Most are primarily concerned with domestic animals, but the profession also accepts a consistent responsibility for wildlife. The Faculty of Veterinary Medicine has recently established an MSc module in wildlife medicine. We are also providing, at our small animal hospital, facilities dedicated to the care of those wild and exotic animals which are presented as patients requiring our care. It is therefore particularly appropriate that the University of Edinburgh should recognise Dr. Goodall's special contribution to our appreciation of the interdependency between humans and animals. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I invite you to confer on Jane Goodall the honorary degree of Doctor of Veterinary Medicine and Surgery.
By the authority vested in me, I admit you to the degree. By the authority vested in me, I shall now admit to their various degrees and diplomas those whose names are set out in the graduation program. I call once again upon the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, in the name and by the authority of the Senatus Academicus, I have the honour to present for the degree of Doctor of Science in the Faculty of Medicine, Kenneth Donaldson. And for the degree of Doctor of Medicine, Sharon Tracy Cameron. Susan Elizabeth Duncan. Robert Montgomery Herd. Stephen McGregor Laurie. Karen Alicia MacLeod. Alan Anderson Milne. Sheena Barbara Pinion. Deborah Susan Rennick. Peter James Traynor. Kirsty Jane Woodburn. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, in the same name and by the same authority, I have the honour to present for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the Faculty of Medicine, Marion Claire Aldhouse. Abdul Hamid Mohammed Alkut. Janet Melanie Anderson Mackenzie. Maria Manya Aspragdakis. Jane Yvonne Barnes. Jeffrey John Bellingham. Janice Sheen Brown. Roger William Brown. Elspeth Bruford. Anne Margaret Cantley. Johanna Yanshi Yi Dangata. Elena Fatchenda. Rosalind Forsey. Hani Gabra. Elizabeth Sandra Hughes. Pauline Margaret Jimison. Michael Benedict Lappin. Gillian McGowan. Gregor Maidich. Elodie Marie Milne. Lindsay Jane Learmonth Pirrie. Victoria Jane Spanswick. Anne-Marie Thompson. Natasha Warren. Louise Jane Sheehan Williams. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, in the same name and by the same authority, I have the honour to present for the degree of Master of Philosophy in the Faculty of Medicine, Thomas Hill Johnston. Adam James Burnell. Alan John Carson. Jonathan Thomas Ogilvie Kavanagh. Alan Curry. Polash Mohammed Shahjahan. Hugh Christopher Masters. And for the degree of Master of Science by Research in the Faculty of Medicine, Munia Sabri. And for the degree of Master of Science in the Faculty of Medicine, Alison Erica Wakefield. Prem Latha Williams. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I shall now read the Sponsio Academica to the medical graduands. Will those about to graduate Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery please rise? Whereas the distinction of a degree in medicine is now to be conferred upon me, I solemnly promise before God, the searcher of hearts, that I will to my latest breath abide steadfast in all due loyalty to the University of Edinburgh. Further, that I will practice the art of medicine with care, with purity of conduct, and with uprightness, and so far as in me lies, will faithfully attend to everything conducive to the welfare of the sick. Lastly, that whatever things seen or heard in the course of medical practice ought not to be spoken of, I will not, save for weighty reason, divulge. This I promise as I hope for the gracious blessing of heaven. I ask you to raise your right hand in a token of assent. Please be seated. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, in the name and by the authority of the Senatus Academicus, I have the honour to present for the degrees of Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery, Simon Agarwala. Sami Albena. Tassin Adnan Alam. Paul Stewart Albert. Roger Douglas Alcock. Jonathan Peter Aldridge. And with honours, Katrina Eleanor Anderson. Sarah Catherine Aviard. Anne Watt Baird. Julie Ann Bapty. Stephen Peter Bennett. Stuart James Benzie. Rhys Paul Benyon. John Paul Bishop. Chun Louis Bong. Philippa Bradbury. And with honours, Alice Rose Brockington. Alistair James Brooks. Jennifer Gordon Browning. Gillian Dawn Brines. Tieran James Dermot Burns. Matthew Edward Cademy. Rachel Ann Cadogan. David Henry Caesar. David Andrew Cairns. Jan Calder. Colin Donald Campbell. Jason Paul Malaki Carroll. David Bruce Carruthers. Robert Lewis Carter. Joanna Suk-Yi Chung. And with honours, Stanley Chia. Zeba Jasmine Chishti. And with honours, Brian Shuwing Chu Kang. Andrew John Edward Clark. Richard Anthony Coburn. Samantha Ann Cole. Fiona Margaret Collins. Daniel Thomas Cookson. Nuno Jorge Velosa Cordero. And with honours, Sheila Brown Coots. Kirsty Morna Meaneashoy Krabby. Philip Alexander John Crosby. Aline Fiona Cross. And with honours, Emma Jane Davidson. Pradeep Dal. Laura Ann Diamond. Marion Dimmigan. Lorna Michelle Donaldson. Erica Louise Doyle. Nadia Mohammed Mahdi El Faran. Magda Christine Elliott. Andrew Stewart Evans. And with honours, Gillian Fabroni. Alison Jane Ferguson. Andrew Michael Russell Fernando. Diana Claire Fleming. Leon Mark Fletcher. Agneta Carol Fullerton. Philip George. Alison Kate Godbolt. Hannah Elizabeth Goodman. Sarah Louise Gorman. Shumit Guhathakurta. Victoria Jane Gurman. Gregory Hamill. Martin Ian Hamilton. Iskander Rizal bin Hamza. Claire Grace Harrison. Claire Margaret Harrison. Neil Cowan Henderson. Robert John Henderson. William St. John Hurst. And with honours, Alexander Robert Horsley. Emma Jane Houghton. Mark Lewis Hughes. John Robert Hurst. And with honours, Alan Douglas Jackson. Lada Jamnitsky. Karen Ann Jenkins. Robert Howard Johns. Lee Baines Jordan. Vikas Kora. Derek Joseph Kelly. Shams Khan. Yong Bin Kim. Wee Leon Lam. Julia Margaret Lappin. Jennifer Kirstine Law. Sarah Ruth Lee. John Paul Lemaitre. Roland Ching Yu Leung. Cherry Ann Lewin. Susan Su Shang Lee. Claire Louise McIntosh. Peter McLean. Christina Martin MacLeod. Robert Graham Malcolm. Mark Robert Mansour. Thomas Nicholas Martin. Eleanor Mary McEwan, Ian James McCulloch, Claire Frances McLaughlin, Claire Gemma McVitie, Erfran Leonard Merchant, John William Mervyn Thomas, Edward John Mills, Joanna Rodriguez Monjardino, Marcus Robert John Lord Mottershead, Miratul Mohammed Khan Muckett, Joanne Louise Myers. Vice Chancellor, I omitted to say that Miratul Mohammed Khan Muckett was with honours. I beg your pardon. And also with honours, Bezad Najim, Imad John Nadra, Claire Louise Nilon, Serena Ki Yang Ning, Kirsty Margaret Nichol, Stephen Graham Nichol, Philippa Therese North, Olugbemiga Adeniran Salisu Ojo, and with honours, Catherine Vanessa Oliver. Rupert Alistair Payne. And with honours, Russell James Peake. Rosemary Susan Peat. Catherine Therese Poitier de la Morondière. Asife Kireshi. Kirsten Ramsey. Alistair Richard Ramsden. Annabelle Virginia Louise Hood Ranson. Amrit Ray. Jonathan Graham Redding. Lorraine Colette Reynolds. Catherine Victoria Romaine Rice. Jeanette Olga Richardson. Lucy Lizette Roberts. Sunita Saar. Sarah Jane Sankey. William Sargent. Stephen James Sayers. Guion Gavin Gordon Scott. Fergus Ranjan Sengupta. Tasman Shah. Ewan James Shepherd. Seema Srivastava. Rosina Shujat. Joanne Leslie Syme. Gavin David Simpson. Salil Singh. Vivek Sivarajan. Christopher Graham Skeen, Lindsay Ann Smith, David Martin Snow, Sing Yang Soon, Catherine Ann Spencer Hammond, Richard Stumpfle, Paul Swinburne, and with honours, Kirsty Joanna Swindles. Faye Tarvett, Shahila Taib, Andrew Michael Teodorchuk, Hamit Singh Tandi, Catherine Ann Theodosio, Bruce Murray Thomas, Hugh Brian Watson Thomas, Alison Yi Hua Ting, Ira Siobhan Trewavas, Sashid Anand Tripp, James Howard Valance, Sonia Jane Wakelin, Abigail Helen Walker, Michael Andrew Wallace, and with honours, Sarah Ruth Walmsley. Anna Kate Washington, and with honours, James Fleming Welsh, Michael Jonathan Wells, Douglas George West, Fiona Morag Whitton, Rachel Mayer Williams, Thomas Christian Wright, Martha Jane Wiles, James Hamilton Wiley, Emma Fazila Zulkifli, Mr. Vice-Chancellor, in the same name and by the same authority, I have the honour to present for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Medical Sciences, Nicholas John Edward McParlin.
I call upon the Dean of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, in the name and by the authority of the Senatus Academicus, I have the honour to present for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Maria Irma Esteban Redondo. Peter Barry Hill. David Little. Fiona Elizabeth Munro. In the same name and by the same authority, I have the honour to present for the degree of Master of Science by Research in the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Jaime Bautista Ortega. Tan Mei Liang. Rebecca Ann Mackey. In And in the same name and by the same authority, I have the honour to present for the degree of Bachelor of Veterinary Medicine and Surgery, Andrew Paul Adler. Rachel Abigail Atkinson. Ingeborg Beck. Jonathan Christopher Bell. Tilda Berger. John Alfred Blomfield. Nicholas Xavier Bomber. Christine Espenuk Bratlid. Richard Ian Caddick. Elizabeth Mary Coles. Glenn Olivier Cosquer. Josephine Peggy Dandrieu. Leah Joy Denman. Robert Gordon Denson. Matthew Clive Dobbs. Noel Gerard. Joanne Elizabeth Drew. Hamish David Duncan. Margaret Claire Durston. Deborah Fuse. Jess Thomas Gillen. Tamsin Rebecca Hanna. Rebecca Mary Hanson. Ian Jeffrey Hemsley. Louise Susan Illingworth. Robert James Ingle. Richard James Jennison. Christine Hagen Johansson. Nanette Maud Johnston. Rowena Sarah Killick. Simon Gerard King. David Garfield Kitchen. Peter Matthew Knowles. Sibylla Martha Langaka. Peter James Lennox. Adam Max Lloyd Lucas. Fiona McLean. Leslie Ann MacDonald. David John McLaren. Seamus Gerard McLaughlin. Fiona Louise McLean. Bean. Linda Ann Moore. Stuart John Morris. Krista Ruby Mullen. Susie K. Murfitt. Bridget Clare O'Farrell. Teresa O'Riordan. Torben Kenrick Orskov. John Howell Parry. Stuart Joseph Pearson. Morag Elizabeth Peebles. Piers Gifford Thomas Pepperell. Philip Ian Perry. Rachel Perry. Robert William Pettit. Camilla Maureen Previtt. Julian John Radburn. Philippa Jane Richards. Aled Wynne Roberts. Simon Peter Roach. Tracy Ann Rodger. Gillian Nancy Russell. Peter Gordon Salmon. Helen Claire Sanderson. Karen Elizabeth Sanson. Sarah Ann Elizabeth Scarrett. Karen Ruth Betsy Scott. Tora Simonson. Hannah Elizabeth Smith. Joanna Kate Sparkman. John Gibson Steele. David Alexander Stewart. Thomas Tilley. Emma Colette Timperley. Stephen Michael Trickey. Natalie Jane Vickers. Claire Rosemary Wallbank. Keith Warner. Christopher William Watson. Catherine Ann Webster. Joanne Sarah Westley. Deborah Jane Williams. Rhianne Williams. Elizabeth Ann Windsor. Anthony James Rather. Rachel Wright. Rebecca Ann Wright. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, in the same name, by the same authority, I have the honour to present for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Veterinary Science with honours in Pathological Sciences, Duncan Stewart Brady. Karen Elizabeth Haig. Leonie Ann Julian. Stuart Warren Naylor. Louise Rosamond Plant. Andrew Robertson Aitken.
We move now to the award of scholarships, prizes, and medals, and I call first upon the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honour to present for the Eccles Scholarship and Leslie Gold Medal in Medicine, which is awarded to the most distinguished MBCHB Graduate of the Year, which this year will be awarded jointly to Alexander Robert Horsley and Catherine Vanessa Oliver. And the Scottish Association for the Medical Education of Women Prize, which is awarded to the most distinguished woman MBCHB Graduate of the Year, and this is awarded also to Catherine Vanessa Oliver. And the Dorothy Gilfillan Memorial Prize, which is awarded to the woman student most distinguished in the final MBCHB examination. And again this year, this is awarded jointly to Emma Jane Davidson and Sarah Ruth Walmsley.
I call upon the Dean of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honour to present for the Sir Alexander Robertson Medal, awarded for outstanding contributions to veterinary medicine and education, Emmanuel Nana Owadi Opong.
I call now upon the promoter, Professor John Howie, who will address the graduates.
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, graduates, families and friends, colleagues, it is my pleasant duty as promoter to be the first to congratulate and welcome new graduates. I am expected to follow my welcome with a few words of wisdom, but I have been told that these should not exceed 700 in number. The words of welcome follow fairly standard lines, and these are standard because they are appropriate. Congratulations are due to everyone for confirming the abilities that we knew you had when you achieved entry to these most demanding of undergraduate courses. Although on the surface your successes will not have surprised anyone, they have only been achieved by hard work, even if sporadic for many of you, and by adapting to the very different challenges of university as against school education. Your families and friends are nearly as important participants in today's ceremony. They have worried about you for longer than you have, and they are fully entitled to a moment of quiet self-congratulations before resuming their worries about your futures again next week. And the teachers in the faculties of medicine and veterinary medicine, and the many often unseen support staff throughout the university, also indulge in a degree of warmness of feeling as we watch you pass to the next stage of the careers we have helped to prepare you for. If the words of welcome are familiar, so increasingly are the words of wisdom the same these years. The theme always seems to be about change and challenge, the enormity of pace of change and of challenge. Almost the only thing that we can predict about your future is that we cannot predict it. To put some kind of scale on my remarks, I visited the Central Library to see what the Scotsman had to tell us about the world in graduation week of 1974, when most of you were born, and in 1961, not when I was born, but when I graduated. In 1961, Scots whisky had raised to £1.95 a bottle, and there were 11 marks to the pound. Teachers' salaries were £1,600 per annum, and there were new plans to ease traffic congestion around the St James Centre. The government had announced that there would be no fifth university in Scotland, and another US satellite had blown up on launching. Arnold Palmer won the Open Golf at Birkdale, and England beat Australia by an innings at Headingley. And the Australians said it was due to the pitch, and they wouldn't play there again. And I'm sure if they lose next week by an innings, they'll say the same thing. The BMJ announced the discovery of the first broad-spectrum antibiotic in the penicillin group, which we now know as amoxil or amoxicillin. In 1974, we had 17% inflation. There were now only 6 marks to the pound, and a detached villa in Cramond cost $20,000. British Airways was in trouble again. It had raised the cost of a single fare to London from £11.85 to £19. Eva Perón became President of Argentina, and Richard Nixon was in the middle of Watergate. The BMA was warning us the National Health Service is now seriously underfunded. And the Ministry of Agriculture was developing emergency plans to support the beef market. And the British Medical Journal was now encouraging us to prescribe fewer of the once new penicillin antibiotics and to communicate better with patients who were dying. 10 years from now, new understandings of how cells and genes work and the incomprehensible power of modern information technology will perhaps have enabled us to change the natural history of disease and will have produced opportunities we can only dream of now. But they will also have raised serious questions of ethics and of economics which will test our society deeply. And they will force us to keep asking how to balance science and art most wisely. Times change, and we change with them, remarked one English philosopher. But a French one said, the more things change, the more they remain the same. In drawing to a close, I would like to quote from John Berger's moving and sympathetic story of the life of a country doctor. It is called A Fortunate Man, and it describes and photographs events of a year in practice near Tintern Abbey, near the border between Wales and England. The first 2 pages are an open sketch of a rural scene, probably English, but with the hint of starkness that we identify with the Highlands of Scotland. There is a cottage with a thread of smoke rising from its chimney, a hill, a field and some trees, and a loch, and a boat with a fisherman and his son rowing to the shore as the sun sets. 4 lines of text are imposed on the scene. Landscapes can be deceptive. Sometimes a landscape seems to be less a setting for the life of its inhabitants than a curtain behind which their struggles, achievements, and accidents take place. For those who graduate in medicine and in veterinary medicine, it is your ability to see behind the curtains that will mark you as wise practitioners as against journeymen. If your education in this university has achieved its purpose, it will be reflected in your ability to understand the interplay of life in health and in sickness, to care as well as to cure, to be human at the same time as being professional. Enough of wisdom for today. In many ways, this occasion of your graduation is a landscape of a different kind for you and your families. Enjoy it to the full because you deserve to. But on Monday, remember about the curtains too.
I should like to thank Professor Howie on your behalf for his wise and humane words. That he could find 700 wise words is a great tribute. Most of us would be feeling we're doing rather well with 25, but everything he said is central to the vocations and professions which you have chosen. And in thanking Professor Howie, since this is the last graduation ceremony of this summer diet, I'd like also to thank Donald Catnach and his staff, Marion Dunbar and her staff, and all the servitors and those who will serve you the excellent lunches to which you go. A great deal of work goes into preparing for these graduations. They do work, and it owes a great deal to many people in the institution, some of whom are round about you now. I add my own personal congratulations to all of you, to our two distinguished honorary graduates. I remind you that you are now graduates of the University of Edinburgh. I hope you will retain your links with the university, that over the years, the staff, the friends you've made here, the department, the faculty, the university, and indeed the General Council, of which you are all now members, and through which you play a part in the governance of the university. I hope all of that take shape in your life and that you continue to be associated with us. One last footnote about the ritual. This is alleged to be, that is the story in which we survive, a bonnet made from the breeches of John Knox. You have been capped with that bonnet, and that is something that is a true distinction and few other graduates in the country can boast. Lastly, please, graduates of Edinburgh, go forth and celebrate. You deserve it. Thank you. Please rise. I call upon the chaplain to the university.
Go out with joy, confidence, and celebration. May God, Creator, Healer, and Restorer, be with you in times of light and darkness, in days of satisfaction and days of self-doubt. May you be upheld by the unseen presence, strengthened by the infinite power, and accompanied by the one who brings hope to the world, now and forevermore. Amen.
Thank you.